Kevin Thomas, and he is extra spicy today. I mean, we're trying to get ready for the show, and we have like 20 seconds.
Which is like, I don't care. We're going to talk.
Before the show starts, and we're like, hey, Kevin, you mind if we? He's like, no, that's fine. I got time. And just telling us all his life stories, all the stuff happening, all of the car issues. He's cold. He's claiming he's going to start a campfire in the office. I mean,
he's cracking up back there. I'll say he's going to start a trash can fire inside the office. Well, the whole story behind it is that it was like kind of hot from it being hot the past few days in here. So you open up the back door and made it a little cool in here. And the old Georgia boy over there is like, it's cold in here.
I'm a Georgia boy. I'm a Georgia boy. And Kevin can't even claim to be a South Georgia boy because he's from North Georgia, just like I am.
Yep.
But I mean, I think it's a reasonable, like 55, 60 degrees outside. You let some of the airflow come in.
Yeah.
I mean, you need some fresh air every now and then. I'm a windows open guy, Cody. If it's perfect outside, windows.
It's 52 out.
Yeah, perfect. So it's like it was like 80 degrees in here. You let the airflow circulate because Dad won't let us turn on the AC. And so
don't touch the AC.
So I let the airflow circulate, and now it's like a perfect probably 70 degrees in here, and Kevin's walking around shivering, claiming that he's going to get hypothermia and frostbite, but he's going to be fine. But Christian Gokel, Cody Queen, Cam Rushry, glad to have you alongside today. You can hear the teeth chattering of Kevin Thomas coming up in about an hour on a 3 and Out. But Cam, we were talking about it yesterday. Hot seat for Lloyd Pierce and the Atlanta Hawks, and you said the seat was fizzling. Well, apparently it boiled over. Lloyd Pierce relieved of his duties after a little over 2 years as the head man for the Atlanta Hawks, accumulated a 63-120 record in those 2+ seasons. The Hawks started this year 10-9, but have lost 11 of the last 15 games. Cam, we knew it was going to be a rebuild for the Hawks from the jump when they hired Lloyd Pierce, went out and traded for Trae Young. And we knew it was going to be a rebuild, but the thought before this year was, with some of the moves you made, some of the young talent you have on the team, emerging stars in Trae Young and John Collins, this should be a better, more competitive Atlanta Hawks team, at least make the playoffs. And now they're just bad. Do you think this was the right move from the Hawks?
Yeah, it was, because the guy behind him is just simply better than him as a coach. Nate McMillan was a good coach in Indiana. And he overachieved in Indiana, so he might be able to turn this around and, make them the 8th seed possibly. But it was the right decision. I do agree.
Been a coach in the NBA for a long time. Actually has an over 500 record. In that time, he will serve as the interim coach. But Travis Schlenk was asked about it, the Hawks president and GM. He said, as we said at the beginning of the season, our goal was to have progress this year, to move forward, and we just felt like that wasn't happening as quickly as we wanted to. These are not easy decisions. These are real-life decisions that affect multiple families, and they are not easy. But we felt like for the organization, it was the best thing for us to do moving forward. And Cody, I guess the one thing I can say is he wasn't given a lot of talent the first year and a half, and then this year it was, you knew you had some signings, but most of them were hurt. You had, I think, probably 4 or 5 guys that you're really counting on to be key contributors this year hurt. And so I think it's really hard to gauge somebody based off of that. But at the same time, all the fourth quarter letdowns from the Atlanta Hawks, I mean, they just have an atrocious record when they have a lead going into the fourth quarter. All of those letdowns, I think, just came back to head coaching, and that's why they decided it was time for him to go.
I was talking to a home team on Twitter, actually. He hit my few arguments on his Twitter. He was saying that, you can't put it all on the coach, but it was a good firing. But, it's also on the players not making those last shots, not doing what they're supposed to. And he was getting ripped apart. So I think he is, I think he is right. Hey, man, it's not just the coaching that was wrong. I think it's also the players. One of the youngest teams, I think they're the second youngest team in the NBA.
Dude,
right behind the Minnesota.
I hate that, though. There's young teams all over the place. Like, I don't think young is an excuse for.
No, it's not. It's one of the excuses, though.
Bad play down into the fourth quarter. Again, like, you were young in the first, second, and third quarter. I mean, why is the fourth quarter different?
Yep. But from other takes that we're seeing out there from actual guys in Atlanta, I'm agreeing this whole entire team just needs, it needs something like the coaching is one of it. But man, they in order to be a good, 2 great team, you need that one superstar. And I do not think Trae is that one superstar who's going to put you over.
No, I think
don't
Trae
he
Young
is.
on a majority of contenders is the
third
or fourth guy. But I never understood why Atlanta. We were talking about this before the show. It's a vibrant city. It's becoming Hollywood of the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
With all the film industry that have moved in and around Atlanta, and just a vibrant community in terms of music, film. A great place to live. And you talk about a moderate climate. I mean, you get all 4 seasons in Atlanta, right?
Yes,
and
beautiful.
Cheaper to live in than some of these other cities as well. But just a internationally recognized, beautiful city. Hosted an Olympics before. I never understood what it is about Atlanta, specifically in the NBA, where they just cannot get free agents to town. I mean, you get some of the mid-level guys that have gotten you a little bit further in the playoffs before, but you've never been able to get a marquee name, and you've never been able to have sustained success. I mean, Mike Budenholzer was probably like the longest stretch where the Hawks were actually really competitive in the Al Horford years, Cam, but I don't know what it is about that organization. I mean, eventually you fire enough coaches, it's just got to come down to ownerships in the front office, right? That you live in one of the more vibrant cities. I mean, I don't want to trash talk other cities, but there are cities Atlanta's a city I'd rather live in much more than some of the other cities in the NBA, and they've never been able to find sustained success.
I mean, it's true. I don't know if it's a front office thing, but the cities that I've seen lately, Los Angeles, Brooklyn, all those teams have a good chemistry. They have a good front office. I'll say that. Like when KD and Kyrie went to Brooklyn, there's New York right up there. We all know the Knicks are more popular, but they went to Brooklyn because of the organization. And with the Hawks, maybe it's just something in the front office. Maybe it's not appealing. They're not attracting the free agents for some odd reason. I'm confused just like you. I ask the same thing.
If you look at other teams in Atlanta, like the Falcons and the Braves, like the Falcons, I know it's not huge name signings. You usually don't see huge names move that much in the NFL like the NBA. But, I mean, you were able to go out and get the Todd Gurley's, the Mohamed Sanus. You're able to sign guys in the secondary, get linebackers through free agency. And, I mean, probably the best pass rusher in Atlanta Falcons history, John Abraham, was a free agent signing from New York. So, I mean, you've been able to go out and get free agents. The Atlanta Braves, I mean, the guy who was one of your team MVPs last year, Marcelo Zuna, that was a free agent signing. Before that, Josh Donaldson. I mean, the Braves are able to go out and get free agents. The Falcons are able to go out and get free agents. I don't know what it is about the Atlanta Hawks, and I just have to think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you have never had success and you're just kind of a joke in the NBA, and people don't want to risk the rest of their careers going to a mediocre basketball team, or not even basketball team, basketball franchise.
And what's crazy because they got a good owner. Can't remember his first name, but last name Wrestler. Tony Wrestler. He's young. He's like in his early 60s. And he does really cool stuff. You know, he's one of these cooler, younger, like owners. You know, I think he did some like Beverly Hills stuff. That's how he got rich. But he's very hip for an owner. And you still not be able to attract these players to come to Atlanta with a young ownership. You know what I mean? And like their uniforms are cool. You know, the city's cool.
That is a big thing. I think
come on, man. Like it's a good organization.
Cam, I think you probably hurt yourself with the checkered neon green uniforms the last few years. That might have hurt you in free agency a little bit. But the uniforms now, going back to the Dominique days, I think there's some of the more clean uniforms in the NBA right now and the different combos they have. But
Peachtree. Oof.
But the MLK uniforms are sick too, but just like they're basic, like the red, black, and white with some like the orange tint to them. I think those are sick, but I've been confused, and it's not just this year. I mean, you've had some years, Cam, like the Jeff Teague years with Al Horford, where you were able to go out and get some mid-level guys, but when was the last time, if ever, the Hawks have gone out and got a top 10 player in the NBA to come to Atlanta?
Nah, it's never happened. I mean, we got happy when Melo came for a hot second and then just released him.
Brett Favre played the same amount of time in Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't know. It's when I see other locations, they always have a superstar there to attract somebody else coming. And Atlanta hasn't had a superstar since Dominique. So until then, yeah, maybe Trey could get
who's
one
the
of these
best
younger guys.
Dominique? Is it Al Horford?
The best player since Dominique is probably Al Horford. He has the most success, definitely. I don't think he's ever missed the playoffs. So he's if Trey could bring in one of these younger guys growing up in the league, maybe you could attract somebody. But the KDs and Kyries, that's over with.
Well, I feel like that's kind of what Lloyd Pierce was building towards and hoping was going to happen. You get Bogdanovich on there, you have John Collins, you have Trey Young, and maybe all of a sudden this looks like a place. If you're one of the top 10, 15 players in the NBA, you say, I can go be the star there and have a really good supporting cast. Because think about how different the dynamic around the Hawks would be if you take one superstar and put him on the Hawks, one guy who can take over a game and put him on the Hawks. I mean, look at what Miami was able to do just last year. They had a very okay roster, but you add Jimmy Butler to the roster, and all of a sudden they're in the NBA Finals, taking the Lakers to 7. I don't think the roster is far away, but Cam, I think the last ingredient you need is the most coveted ingredient, which is a superstar NBA player. And I can't think of anybody right now that's coming up on a free agency where Hawks could go after them that could make that happen in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Like Giannis ain't coming to Atlanta.
Oh nah, he's not coming. He's already signed. He's not coming to Atlanta.
Players come to Atlanta.
I want to say top 30. Like I think Al Horford was a top 30 player in the NBA for a while, but it's just I'm talking top 10, top 15. It's just in reality, you need at least one, probably two of those to compete.
A person that's interesting, he's coming up in free agency, and they've underachieved the last few years. And he's from Atlanta, Jaylen Brown. I mean, it could happen. You could make a pitch. I don't see it happen.
Is Jaylen Brown as good as Jimmy Butler?
Oh, yeah. Jaylen Brown averaging 27 points this year. He's like really good two-way guy.
Has he been consistently
with
over
Jason
the past
Tatum,
6 years? Jimmy Butler has
like with Jason Tatum around.
I don't think he's better than Jimmy Butler, but he's definitely on the way. I think he's the best player on Boston right now. I really do, as far as consistency. But Trey is going to have to get some of these younger guys coming into their first free agent market, deal at 25 and try to, convince them to come to Atlanta.
Yeah, the Hawks, as of right now, just a team that you just kind of scan through the scores and go, yeah, that makes sense. Team that's probably going to be picking, I don't know, Cam, lottery pick again this year?
Yes.
Yeah. They may be able to pull it around. I like Nate McMillan, though.
That would be the most Atlanta thing ever, is them to not make the playoffs but win enough games to pull themselves out of the lottery. That's just the most Atlanta thing ever. We got more to come here on Second Down. If you missed any portion of the show, you can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast as well. Big show coming up today on 3 and Out, 3 o'clock right off the bat. We're going to catch up with Israel Makwamu. Georgia fans will remember him not too nicely from 2019 when he picked off Jake Fromm 3 times in Athens, returning 1 for a pick 6. Also going to catch up with Rich Stiles. Got a new segment we're going to try out with him. And then former Auburn running back Brad Lester going to hop on the show as well in the 5 o'clock hour. So big stuff coming up today right here on ESPN Radio. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. Of course, presented to you by the Uniform Source all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Charlie Campbell, a good friend of our show, always have him on around draft time. Love getting his updates. According to his profile on WalterFootball.com, led all NFL media in draft rumor accuracy in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 2020, and led all NFL media in correct picks for the 2017 and 2019 NFL draft. Now, I mean, Cody, we know how tough that is. You're lucky if you get 6, 7 picks right in the first round, because like after that's
a record, baby.
After the first weird pick happens, it's just all downhill from there. All kinds of crazy stuff starts happening. I mean, who had Jordan Love going to the Packers in the first round last year? So that's quite an accomplishment, and he knows his stuff. He had an interesting comment, I thought, in his latest mock draft. He has Zach Wilson going to the New York Jets at number 2 overall. And
sounds accurate.
The more we've heard about Zach Wilson, the more it just seems like he is the darling of the NFL. But that being said, there are some things that have come out negatively about him. I know the tweet that really blew up a couple weeks ago was that he wasn't voted a team captain, even as the starting quarterback for 3 years. And usually quarterback, that's pretty much a guarantee. As a team leader, you're going to be a captain. So some people were curious about that. You really want a guy to take over as the face of your franchise that wasn't voted by his teammates to be a team captain. Well, Charlie Campbell put in here, team sources say Wilson is confident and intelligent, plays tough, has keen recall, and inspires his teammates to play for him. On the negative side, they say Wilson is a rich, entitled brat who, rather than being a leader, is a selfish know-it-all. His parents are a pain to deal with, too. In the short interviews at the Combine and in Zoom meetings, Wilson probably will be a star because of his intelligence, confidence, and excellent recall will shine through those environments. Thus, I could see Wilson continuing to rise throughout the draft process. I mean, that's pretty scathing right there from Charlie Campbell. I mean, is that something, if what he's saying is true, Cam, and you're in the front office for the New York Jets, you're about to draft a guy number 2 overall, so theoretically you want him to be your quarterback for the next 15, 20 years. If you're going to spend a second overall pick on a quarterback, and you're talking to team sources and what Charlie Campbell's saying, they're also saying to you, does that give you pause about a guy, or do you just look at on the field?
It doesn't necessarily give me pause, because you got to go what you have to go with. If that's the guy you want, go ahead and get him. You got to take what you got to deal with. But that is, if I'm the Falcons, that's pause for concern.
Okay, so you're saying Jets, no pause, just go ahead, all gas.
Jets need whatever they need whatever they could get at this point. So you have to go with what you could go with. The Falcons, that's a little bit different. So yeah, but the Jets, yeah, there's no pause for concern.
Cody, again, quoting, they say Wilson is a rich, entitled brat who, rather than being a leader, is a selfish know-it-all. His parents are a pain to deal with, too. Again, from Charlie Campbell on WalterFootball.com. If you hear that and you're in the scouting department for the New York Jets or for the Atlanta Falcons, does that give you pause on Zach Wilson?
Oh, absolutely. On top of him not being a captain, say if he was voted captain, you could really say, well, how accurate is that? You know, you start hearing he was there for 3 years, wasn't voted captain, is being called selfish and stuff like that, and being called, his family's being a pain in the butt to deal with, kind of thing. I'm not happy trying to put my second overall pick, the person who's trying to turn around my franchise completely, to something like that. You know, you just can't take the chance when you have Justin Fields out there or something like that, you know, which, you know, is a guarantee, who is voted a captain, who's known to be a leader, who's extremely good at football, you know, beat Clemson, you know, went to the national title against one of the best Alabama teams of all time. You know, you have Justin Fields out there, then you have a guy like him who's having these problems already, who's thinking, some people are comparing him to Patrick Mahomes, and some people are comparing him to a spoiled rich kid. You know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, Patrick Mahomes' dad played professional baseball. So, like,
yeah,
if you're talking about like coming from a great background fiscally, I mean, Patrick Mahomes probably not dissimilar.
Yeah, but was his dad a pain in the butt to deal with? Is where all those
probably
reports coming out the same? Exactly.
But we don't know either way. And like I said, this is just reports from Charlie Campbell. We're going to have him on tomorrow on 3 and Out to talk about this.
Man.
But, I mean, Walter Football is a very reputable website. Charlie Campbell is known throughout the industry. And again, most correct mock draft picks. And so him talking to the sources out at BYU and people around Zach Wilson, I mean, is it overly surprising to hear something like that? That would be my first question. Is a kid who's probably been the guy since he was in Pop Warner football, parents probably spending a lot of money to make sure he had these opportunities. I mean, we see it all the time, Cody, where parents are willing to invest fiscally because they want a chance for their kid to go play college football. I don't want to say chance. They want to maximize the percentage of that chance for their kid to go play college football and maybe even at the professional level. But how many of those kids have you met before, Cody, where they are just kind of jerks? But you know what football coaches really care about? Can you go out there and hit can you go out there and hit a wide receiver on a 15-yard out route and just hit them perfect, and we can deal with the other stuff later? Where I see this stuff coming into play is if you have him close to somebody else. If you think if you're stuck between one or two guys and maybe you have the other guy a little bit lower, but then you start getting concerning reports about his character, about just his mindset. Is he a guy who's going to be able to rally the team? Because look, you're playing for the New York Jets. Chances are there's going to be some 4-12 seasons in there, or 4-13 seasons in there.
It's different now. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, we don't know yet, but it probably heading that way. But there's going to be tough seasons. There's the NFL. Not everybody's the Patriots. I mean, look at the Patriots now. How many games did they win last year? And they were under 500, right?
Yeah,
so
they're under 500.
There's going to be times there's going to be times of struggles. How do you deal with that? That's questions you have to ask yourself. And again, the entire locker room is looking to you. You don't want situations where the defense just loads the offense and is splitting the locker room. You don't want situations where you have a backup quarterback and that's splitting the locker room. You want your franchise quarterback to be the guy and to be able to unite the locker room. Everybody look to him as a leader. And I'm not saying he has to be the only leader, but he has to be a leader. I mean, name the last overly successful quarterback that wasn't a leader on their team. I don't
want to talk about successful,
I don't think you can do it. So I do think
if you're a top 10 quarterback, you're a leader on the team.
Yeah, I just don't. I think this is a concerning. Again, we don't know who Charlie Campbell's sources are, but he's saying people close to Zach Wilson and in the know around the BYU program called his parents a pain in the butt and said he's selfish and entitled and a spoiled rich kid. But again, if you are sold on him as a quarterback and you really believe in what he can do and what he's going to do around you, is that worth risking that second overall pick? If you think he is head and shoulders above anybody else in the draft, you're ready to go with a new quarterback, I still think they pull the trigger on this.
No, I think it'd be a very Jets thing to do. Yeah. So if you're doing a prediction standpoint, yeah, I would go Zach Wilson over the Fields because it's the Jets. Now, if I'm going what I would do and what I think most people would do, I'd go Justin Fields. But Jets, that organization likes to do stuff that like makes people scratch their head and then 3 years later say, man, we could have had him. I feel like that's what the whole organization's based off of. So Zach Wilson would be
I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan.
Pick.
I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. We know what that's all about, man. We could have had him. Like that's our drafting motto.
Yep.
Man, we could have had that guy. Wow. I mean, Atlanta Hawks too, right? Who did they draft over Chris Paul, Cam?
Marvin Williams.
There you go.
At least you guys had the guy for quarterback for a very long time.
Yeah.
The Jets have not had that. Ever.
Well, that's where I look at guys like Mac Jones and think that's one of the reasons he's starting to scoot up the draft boards is because you just see what kind of a leader he is. I mean, look at the talent that he had around him and the personalities that he had around him, who he sat behind for 3 years, right? And Tua and Jalen Hurts. So I think a lot of people are coming around on Mac Jones and saying that's a dude who has talent, can lead an NFL offense, but also just can be our franchise quarterback and be a leader for us going forward. I think
come on Broncos.
That's one of the reasons he's shooting up the list. I also think that's one of the reasons that Trevor Lawrence, outside of being 6'6" and having a cannon for an arm and being extremely athletic, I think that's another reason why he's just been the locked in number one overall draft pick is he has all of that plus the mindset, right? The grinder mindset. I think that's a huge thing that NFL teams are looking for. So, I mean, to me as an Atlanta Falcons fan where Mel Kiper has the Falcons trading up to go draft this dude, like, do you really have him valued that much higher than Justin Fields that you'd be willing to leverage your draft to go get him with these concerns? Not just personally. I mean, one of my biggest concerns would be what was the level of competition that he was playing against, and do those numbers truly and accurately represent what he's going to be in the NFL, because he went up against a good Coastal Carolina defense and he put up some yards, but he wasn't able to finish drives.
He played football in Utah. Get out of here. Like, come on.
Hey, there's some good football players that have come out of Utah, but it's just
some.
I mean, and I'm not saying you
You
can't
play in SEC, a lot comes out of them.
But I mean, to be fair, Ben Roethlisberger's and Tony Romo's and those guys have come out of lower level schools. And we say lower level, they're still a Division I football to FBS football team. They're G5. They're still playing really good competition relatively, but it's not the guy who went first overall last year, who had 7 top 10 wins, went 15-0, set all kinds of records while playing in the SEC West, and Joe Burrow. So it's just, there's questions you got to ask yourself. It's just how many red flags pop up before you're like, we can't risk
over Justin Fields. That's the thing.
Well, but again, if you have them graded out similarly, then that's so. But if you have Zach Wilson graded out head and shoulders above Justin Fields as a scouting department, again, that's, you're shaking your head. That's what you think.
Yeah, I can't see
there that. Who was it that we had? Matt Miller from the NFL draft scout on Twitter. He said that he's talked to people in NFL front offices that say they believe that Zach Wilson's the next Patrick Mahomes. So it's like, you're shaking your head.
That's crazy.
But if you're saying he's the next Patrick Mahomes, then he should probably clearly be the number 1 overall pick.
What
right?
changed? Like, what? I'm with BJ Bennett on this. In the past few months, what have changed? It was a solid number 2. Justin Fields, and now all of a sudden, some kid from BYU's like, "Hey man, he might be the next Patrick Mahomes."
He made some silly plays, like good in a good way, like some plays that you're like, "Wow!" Completed 70% of his passes, had an unbelievable efficiency ranking. Like, those are the things.
Were we looking up his schedule and it was like laughable?
But again, I don't think NFL teams inherently care about that when they see what you're doing on tape, when you're making all the throws. It doesn't matter what the competition is when you're making the throw. I mean, a 15-yard out route on a dime is a 15-yard out route on a dime. It doesn't matter who you're playing against, right? But I also think there is some value in the fact that when your team has been placed in the big games against competition of a similar level, how did you perform? And we've seen Justin Fields go toe-to-toe with Clemson twice, beat him once, and was a throw away from beating him twice, right? We've seen Trevor Lawrence only play in college football playoff semifinals and win a national championship as a freshman, right? So we've seen these guys in the battles before. We've seen Mac Jones, when he waited his turn, come out and play in these games, and he was able to orchestrate arguably the greatest offense in college football history. So there's all sorts of things you can put there. I'm never going to take the talent level you played against and use that as a negative against you if you put stuff on tape that clearly signifies that you are an NFL caliber player. I mean, go down to the FCS level, go down to the Division II level. There are NFL caliber players everywhere, and you'll find them eventually. You might not get drafted, you might get overlooked and just get a free agency invite, an undrafted free agent invite, and make it work. But I'm not going to take that away from Zach Wilson, the level of play he played against, because again, in college football, that's a pretty dang high level that he was playing against. But in some of those games, we didn't necessarily see the best of him. He went up against a true freshman quarterback in Grayson McCall at Coastal Carolina, and he got beat. Straight up, Grayson McCall led his team on the drive they needed to win. Zach Wilson came close, but he didn't do it. And then you have the concerns, as we said, Charlie Campbell reporting that there were concerns about his personality traits. Those are just red flags to me. And so when you're tearing out your quarterbacks, if you have a guy that's close to him, I think that maybe bumps the guy close to him up above him.
A sure way to get fired for the new Jets GM is to draft Zach Wilson. And if Zach Wilson is a bust, you will get fired. If you draft Justin Fields and he's a bust, most likely you're not going to get fired. So the safest thing is go Justin Fields.
And I do think, Cam, some of the stuff that people are taking away from Justin Fields is he had rough games against Indiana in the conference championship game against Northwestern. He just did not have good outings. But the only thing I am showing as a scouting department to anybody in the decision makers for the draft is the Clemson game, because he had everything on display in that game. And that's what they're looking for, right? You're going to have rough games as a quarterback, regardless of what level you're at. But they're looking at, what can you do? What does your body of work look like? What does Justin Fields bring to our team? I show him that Clemson game. I'm looking at a 6'3", 230-pound quarterback dropping dimes from 65 yards away, throwing 6 touchdown passes.
Well, I believe in that game, son.
Was it 6 in that game, Cam?
6, yeah.
Yeah, it was 6.
6 touchdown passes against Clemson. And that's what I was going to say is he showed an ability to run. He showed an ability to pick up first downs. And then he took a massive hit.
Son.
Like a massive hit. Like I would have evaporated into dust if I had gotten a hit like that. Came back in and continue to drop dimes in that game. Like, you're going to get hit in the NFL. Can your body stand up to it? 6'3", 230, legs. Like, if Cam curled up into a cannonball, that's what Justin Fields' legs look like. I mean, the dude has all of the attributes you're looking for. So I'm showing that tape. I'm just saying, against a Clemson defense, a Brent Venables coach defense, this dude was picking them apart with his eyes. That's all I need. I mean, Cody, the 65-yard touchdown pass, just smooth as you want it, right down the middle of the field. I mean, that's what I needed to see. And I was like, yep, top 5 pick.
It looked like Aaron Rodgers tape. So that was
and then the year
beautiful.
before, 40 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Yep.
So, I mean, efficiency, can do it with his legs, with the arm. I'm completely sold on Justin Fields. I'm hoping the Jets ignore what Charlie Campbell put in this report and draft Zach Wilson number 2 overall. Just leave quarterbacks alone, period, because they still have Sam Darnold, and let Justin Fields fall to the Falcons. That's what I'm hoping for in this draft, but we'll see what happens. We got more to come here on Second Down. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. Cam, today, 59 years ago, Wilt Chamberlain, 100 points in an NBA game. Number one, Cam, how absurd is that? Because obviously no one's ever going to touch that again. We had Kobe's 81-point game, but just the fact that my man put 100 points in the bucket in one game, how absurd is that?
Yeah, that's a lot of points with no threes. So that's pretty absurd.
No threes?
No threes. Nah.
I'm
No
And I'm
threes.
pretty sure after that game, I think I have this correct, they implemented the offensive 3-second rule after the game in basketball. They're like, all right, this guy can't just stand under the basket and just dominate people and put 100 points in. We got to figure something else out, right? But I mean, I always love doing this because it brings up the thoughts. Like, number one, and I'll give you guys some time to research this. What is your favorite single game record? Like, just absurd amount of touchdowns, absurd amount of points, goals, rushing yards, tackles, interceptions, whatever you want to do. I want to know what y'all's favorite single game record is. People in the cars listening as well, tweet at us at ESPN Coastal. What is your favorite single game record in sports history? I mean, Wilt Chamberlain's 100, I think, is probably the most iconic one there. I know Joe Burrow throwing for, 6 touchdowns in the first half against Oklahoma in the college football semifinals. I mean, that one's up there for me as well. So just some absurd single game stats out there. I'm curious what y'all's favorites are, but here's just some of the ones that Wilt Chamberlain owns from that 100-point game that still stand, right? Most points in one half, 59 points. Most field goals made, 36. Most field goals made in one half, 22. Most field goals attempted, 63. 63 attempts, 37 most field goals made in one half, most field goals attempted in one quarter at 21, and shares the single game record for most free throws made, 28. That has since been broken. But he has some other regular season records here, Cam. You ready? 118 games where he scored 50 or more points. A walking bucket. 9. Most seasons lead in the league in field goal percentages. Career 23,924 rebounds, highest rebounds per game, average minimum 400 games. He averaged 22.9 boards a game. I mean, just get dominated in the paint. If you're the other center for the opposing team in the 50s, like, what's your thought process going against Wilt Chamberlain? You're like, guys, listen, this is about to be bad.
Fight him in the parking lot or something. I mean, you can't fight him because he was yoked. You can't fight him because he was yoked. Never mind. He was like,
you would get beat up.
I mean, it either goes one of two ways. You fight him in the parking lot, he's out for the game, or you're out for the game, and so you can't get blamed for your team losing. So there you go. Cody, do you have your favorite?
I already know from the get-go, Brandon Marshall, he was a Bronco at the time.
Of course.
This is the whole reason why Terrell Owens had the record for 20 receptions in a game, and he tied it. 20 receptions in a game. Jay Cutler and him, really fun to watch. I remember watching that. I was a younger adult. I can't really tell you any others that I saw, and so I can't say, oh, this is cool, so it's my favorite. But the one that I saw and I thought was really cool was whenever Brandon Marshall tied the record for Terrell Owens in most receptions.
Cam?
I have Clay's 60-point game in 3 quarters with 11 dribbles. Kobe's 81-point game, and then Julio Jones, his 300-yard game against the Carolina Panthers. I love me some Julio. So those are my 3 favorite moments.
Here's a few ones for you that I love, just at single game records. Total offense in a single game in college football history, 1,021 yards by Houston in 1990, led by just the GOAT, Andre Ward. I mean, imagine – poor SMU got beat 95-21 in that game. But, Cam, there have been some Georgia offenses where you don't get 1,000 total yards in like 4 games. Houston put it up in 1 game. If you're the opposing defensive coordinator, do you even like go back into the locker room after the game, or you just go ahead and head to the parking lot, hit the road?
You got to hit the road, and then you can't even watch the tape.
You can't even watch the tape, baby.
You can't. That's a lot of yards.
And then everyone remembers Georgia Tech over Cumberland, 222-0. They posted 2 63-point quarters. Like, how do you have enough time in the quarter, even if I just like allowed you to keep running the ball back and forth? Cody, in 15 minutes of a running clock, do you think you could run 900 yards?
No,
Because that's
absolutely not.
basically what.
Not
it
even
is.
in my prime. Nope, not even. I'd fall down. I'd fake an injury. I know that.
I know. Kevin couldn't make it because he can't even run a 40-yard dash. He falls
I
down.
tell you, in high school, a lot of scores like that against my high school. We weren't very good. So Georgia Tech, kudos. Holy crap, dude! That I've not heard of that. That's a football score.
Yeah, 222-0.
Okay,
over Cumberland.
That's intense.
That mighty Cumberland historically great football program.
Historically,
there.
yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go.
Where is Cumberland?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I think there's a few of them. Like maybe South Carolina. Who knows?
Cumberland Gap. Where is that?
Maybe
West Virginia.
Cumberland Island.
Virginia.
Was it like a football team from Cumberland Island down the coast?
Could be.
Who knows? But Georgia Tech put 222 points up on
Cumberland Tech. You know.
Absolutely. Just a lot of historically great players coming out of that college. We got more to come here on Second Down. We'll come back. Final segment after this. All right, we have a few other single game records we got to talk about before we get out of here. Again, Christian O'Kell alongside Cody Queen and Cam Ursery here on Second Down, presented to you by the Uniform Source. Steve Young, 6 touchdowns in a Super Bowl. Unbelievable. I mean, doing it on the biggest stage. Usain Bolt setting the world record for the 100-meter dash with 9.69 seconds. That's fast. Like smiling at the camera as you're setting a world record fast. A lot of people have sent stuff in saying Bobby Fischer. I don't know if chess is a sport or not, Cody. That's I will leave that up for you guys to determine. I mean, Cam, one that has to be like high up on your list, and I know it's not a record, but just in terms of single game performances, Kobe, 81 points in a game. That has to be high up on your list, right?
Yeah, it's super high, of course.
All right. Speaking of high, do you know who Doc Ellis is, Cam?
No.
Cody, can you tell me who Doc Ellis is?
Doc Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
Have we had him on 3 and Out before?
We have not had Doc Ellis on 3 and Out, but I would love to.
No, I don't know who Doc Ellis is.
Doc Ellis is a former Major League Baseball pitcher. Now, you guys know what a no-hitter is.
Yes.
Allowed no hits through 9 innings in a baseball game, or through the culmination of a baseball game, right? Well, Doc Ellis threw a no-hitter in 1970, and there's a lot of people listening right now who know exactly where I'm going with this. Do you want to know what makes Doc Ellis's no-hitter in 1970 so amazing? Any guesses? I did some foreshadowing.
He didn't throw a pitch.
That would be amazing. I did some foreshadowing. He did it while high on LSD.
Oh, yeah. That's I know this one.
Cam, tripping while throwing a no-hitter in 1970. He's fully and readily admitted it. But, I mean, if you did it the one time and you threw a no-hitter.
He's like constantly on it.
That should tell you something about the other team, man.
But, I mean, that's just, yeah, exactly. If you are a guy on the other team,
that's
you
some
just
type
like
of superhero stuff, man.
Just like, yeah, no, I didn't play in that game. It's like, no, they have you down right here, 0 for 4 in the game. It's like,
So, but
I guess it'd be 0 for 3. 0 for 3.
I wasn't there though.
I guess it'd be 0 for 3 in that game because he just they walked up and he sat him right down. But quickly before we get out of here, Cam, I want to get your thoughts on this. Doc Rivers on the Lloyd Pierce fire. He said, really disappointed. I just talked to him. I wanted to say 5 days ago. He just had a brand new baby. This is a tough business. Boy, it's tough. I've always thought it was a really difficult in a rebuild. Most rebuilds, unfortunately, go the way of Lloyd Pierce. You're in the middle of a rebuild, and then you blame the coach for the losses. You had no chance to win. I don't know if I agree with the losses when you had no chance to win part of that. I know Doc Rivers is going to stick up for other coaches, but I mean, what do you take away from Doc Rivers' statements there?
I mean, I get what he's saying, but he had a chance to win. They built the team to win. So he had his chance. Bad defensive coach. He'll get the spot somewhere else as an assistant coach and maybe a head coach again one day.
Yeah, and again, I think it's one of those things. First time as a head coach, he was set up to fail because the Hawks have just been miserable for a few years now. I'm sure Lloyd Pierce will land on his feet. Curious to see what Nate McMillan could do. Could he become a guy that very much like another Atlanta coach right now, Brian Snitker, who becomes the interim coach, take that interim tag off, and now you're seeing a ton of success from Brian Snitker and the Atlanta Braves. Something we're going to have to wait and see. Hawks getting back on the court, but 3 and Out coming up next. BJ, Ben, and Kevin. Right off the bat, Israel Makwamu, former South Carolina corner, up next on 3 and Out.